Well, hi everyone. Hopefully you've been tracking with the journey in some way. Today has been a long cycle. I think a total of about 50k already, so my legs are starting to feel it a little bit. But really wanted to make the effort to give voice for other people, to share their experiences when it comes to mental and emotional health. And I'm here with my really good friend Liz, who's got unfortunate experience with mental health that I would not be able to experience, and so it's going to be precious. Let's say it's going to be precious to have her share, and sharing particularly on postnatal depression and how that can affect women. So I'm going to stop staring at you and I'm going to start chatting to Liz. Liz, maybe a little bit of an introduction as to who you are before we unpick the ins and outs of your life.
My name's Liz. I'm 45 years old and I am a pastor's wife and have been a Christian for the last, since I was 7, so you can do the maths.
I can't. I can't do the maths.
So a number of years. And yeah, I live in a wonderful part of the country in the north of England, and that's kind of me.
Lovely. Well, I've had the honour of knowing you for, I always pitch things about 10 years, but it's probably over 10 years now. And I think when we first met, you were quite heavily pregnant.
Yes.
With baby number 2.
Yeah.
And I didn't know you all that well in those days, but would probably later kind of find out that it was a tough time. I don't know if that was quite a tough time or it was before that was a tough time. And so I don't know whether you'd like to kind of just walk us into, just for people who've got absolutely no idea what postnatal depression even as a thing is.
Yeah.
Just if you can, rather not quite your own story, but just a little bit of a brief insight as to what it is and what it is that we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, so postnatal depression is something I wasn't really aware of until about a year after I'd had my firstborn, my eldest son now, who is 13 now. I'd heard about it but didn't really know how it would affect you emotionally and affect your brain. Ultimately, with postnatal depression, it's your a part of your brain called the amygdala goes into fight or flight mode, and when you have maybe a traumatic birth of a child, doesn't always have to be that, but if you've had a traumatic experience in the birthing and labour, and then the sleepless nights that come after that, it can just really play with the amygdala, and yeah, you just go into this permanent state of fight or flight really, and you don't know how to get out of that. I didn't know at the time. It took me a year to realise. It wasn't until I actually returned to work that my boss pulled me aside and said, either you go to the doctor right now or I'm going to take you to the hospital.
So it'd be really interesting then to just kind of, as much as you're happy to share that kind of first year, after having a baby, and obviously it's in hindsight, what is the noticeable change, where perhaps, and you might touch on this, you might have just thought, oh well, this must just be what parenting's like, it's hard work, but perhaps actually now that you look back, you've got a bit of a better understanding of what you were experiencing in that first year, but also what you were experiencing, but perhaps what it was like to experience it without the understanding that you have now.
Yeah. So I think because I'd never had a child before, I'd never gone through labour before, I'd never experienced the sleepless nights, all of that you do. I think probably now when I look back, a lot of the emotions and I just felt like I was in a permanent state of stress basically for a year, and I think importantly as well was I tried to hide a lot of that, so I basically isolated myself purposefully, because my brain, I was just stressed all the time, and I didn't want people to see that I wasn't coping well as a parent, because there was a lot of fear then associated with, I'm going to have my baby taken off me, and I'm not coping, which all is very silly now when I look back, you know, but it felt so real at the time, and it clearly was because that part of my brain wasn't functioning as it should do, and it should have been in a state of relax, but it wasn't. So I would tend to put on the happy face, like if people would come round, and even with my family and my husband to a degree as well, like I think something that I really wanted to share was because I think a lot of times for friends and family of someone who's maybe suffering with something, you don't see it. And I know that my family and friends maybe didn't see it because I would mask and I would hide a lot of how I was feeling inside, and it would be, you know, so I'd go in the shower and I'd cry all the time in the shower. That was like my cry space. Or like when people were out and there was no one home, I just cried, like just all the time, and then, you know, would put the makeup on and have a shower and wash myself and be happy and lovely, you know, coming out of it. But I just knew inside there was something wrong. But the fear inside of me, this sort of was that I would have my child taken off me, and that kind of kept me masking it the whole way through, really. But I mean, naturally, sleep deprivation, and I mean, goodness, war people use it as a torture technique, so like it's something that is like not to it's not a trivial thing, having the sleep deprivation. I think that kind of added to it. So I think kind of going into my second pregnancy, after it was kind of like, no, this is like, you know, you do need medication to calm your brain down.
So maybe for just that part, so what then, she said something happened at work, which was perhaps a bit of a turning point. Do you then get like an official diagnosis, or you just get like, this is what's going on?
Yeah, so as it turned out, like my boss had changed in the year of when I was then due to return to work. So when I returned to work, she kind of, new boss, pulled me into the office, and I'm thinking, oh, it's, you know, chat because I've come back to work. And she'd actually had postnatal depression herself with her firstborn. And she just saw in me, because I knew her from beforehand, and she was like, you're sick. She's like, and I can't have you. I was a lecturer at the time, and she's like, you need to not be here. And I was like, I'm fine, I can do this. And she was like, well, can we get a medical profession to see if you're fine? And then it was going to see the doctor, and they were like, yeah, wow, you've had postnatal depression for a year. And so they diagnosed it, and they were like, you're basically in a state of shock. And that's kind of what happens, is you go into this state of shock where you're trying to keep going, but actually it would then end up in like physical burnout. I physically didn't end up in having to go to hospital because I had a really good support network. So once I was able to share with all my like friends, family, like, look, I've got this, and I need to rest basically, and I need to take time out, and I need to have some support. I had a good enough support network that I didn't thankfully have to go to hospital. That's obviously not the case for a lot of women. They do have to go to hospital, and they do have to, because they maybe only have a partner, they maybe haven't got friends and family around them. You know, I was really grateful to the fact that I had some amazing neighbours and like the church family, and as soon as it was kind of like, this is a thing, like you need to take time out, things were put in place so that people were around and stuff. And then I had medication, which then suddenly I was like, oh my goodness, maybe I haven't been quite right.
You want to share a little bit more of your journey of medication?
Yeah, so the key things that need to be rebalanced are, to get technical a little bit, but like serotonin and oxytocin, which you can get those things naturally from foods and from having good friendships and loving relationships and that kind of thing. Sometimes you just need an additional boost of those to like recalibrate your brain basically. So that was what I needed.
And were you quite happy to jump on that?
No, so that was probably, I think yeah, because I think that there's a lot of stigma around mental health, and a lot of like, so as soon as you start taking medication, it's like, oh, you are crazy, maybe I should, and again, that's in my probably in my own head, but the fact that people will be like, well, I maybe shouldn't hang out with her. She's nuts. And it's all the terminology
There's a
that's
mixture.
used.
I think you'd wish there isn't a stigma there. I think it is.
Yeah.
I did a video probably a couple of days from before recording this one on my experience with medication. So I was really resistant. I really didn't want to. And I think part of my journey is similar but different to yours. I went on the medication because I didn't have a choice. In some senses, like, oh my word, I need some sort of help, so let's give this a go. But as I've gone on my journey and discovered more, like, there's also a part in my brain that's not functioning in the way that it should, and it therefore doesn't produce or generate the stuff that my brain needs. Like you say, the stuff can come naturally, but it would seem that the medication either adds or helps bring about that stuff to help the brain function more.
Yeah.
And so people would always say to me, like, if you broke your leg, you'd go and get a cast put on it, or whatever it might be.
And that was the thing for me. I was like, you know what, if I'd broken my arm, I wouldn't go around for a year with a broken arm and it gradually getting worse and worse and worse and more disjointed. I would go to the doctor and I'd be like, what can I do? What physio can I take? What and I think that's, and it's, I think generationally as well, like people would say that's fine, go and get a cast put on your arm, but all tablets, it's another matter. And also I think as well, like a big thing within Christian circles as well, like there is a stigma about your mind.
Definitely talked about that in the video as well.
And I think that's really important to bring out, that and I did have some pushback from certain people of, you shouldn't be on tablets, and I'm like, well, and I'm an advocate for, if I can change my diet to help me, which I also did as well, if I can do some exercise, which will again release the serotonin, the oxytocin, the endorphins that are needed to recalibrate the amygdala, then yes, I'm going to do those as well. But actually, because I'd been under this stress for a year without recognising it, I was like, you know what, for a little while I'm going to I need some additional help here.
Yeah.
In the same way that if you snap your arm off, like, you're not going to be like just going around with like your arm with your bones sticking out. You're not going to go, oh no, like, I'm not going to do that. It's like, no, like, actually the doctor can do some surgery and can help you and put your bone back in place.
Yeah.
So I think there's a real importance to say that there are times in our lives when there's different scenarios, and you have to weigh that up yourself of like what you feel comfortable with. I personally felt comfortable with, okay, this is serotonin that I'm taking, and it's going to help me to get back on an even keel and look after my children, and function, and not be in this permanent state of stress. And that was important to me.
Yes. So you've got an awareness.
Yeah.
You know what's, to a degree, you kind of know what's going on. You've got a good support network. You're getting some support from medication as well. What's then the journey kind of? Is that a year after the first born?
So yes,
you kind of worked it out.
Yeah. So that was a year after, and then. So then I went on the medication for. So the doctor had kind of said, generally with postnatal depression, you go on for the medication for as long as you've been suffering. That is normally that's kind of the norm. So she's like, you've been suffering with this for a year, so you could be on the medication for a year. And then after a year, I then fell pregnant again. So I then had to come off the medication. But praise the Lord, whenever I get pregnant, my body releases lots of happy hormones. so it actually puts my brain in a really good space normally, quite calm and relaxed. So that, that was a blessing. Pretty much within the first, because I'd had the postnatal depression with with my eldest, then the doctors do keep a closer eye on you second time round. So they're asking a lot more questions to get stuff out of me, of like, right, so how, so pretty much within about 2 to 3 months of me having my second, a lot of the symptoms were coming back again. So they were like, look, if you're up for it, we feel you probably do need to go back on the medication again, because of the answers I was given when I was going in for my regular checks and things.
Yeah. Would you have like an awareness of, like, is that common for if you've had postnatal depression once, that it'll be the next time, like if you come across, you chatted to people and found out?
Yeah, so no, it's not a hard and fast rule. They obviously I'm pregnant again now, and they have,
if you hadn't
noticed the big bump, the big whale. So the midwife has been keeping it, probably there's been more questions asked, I feel, because of the past experience. So they do keep a closer eye on you. It's not always a hard and fast rule though. Again, potentially because of, life circumstances, your diet, there's different factors that obviously affect your brain. Also, you may have it with you first, but then actually you've then got experience, and then you have a completely different birth the second time round, third time round, whatever. So it's not a hard and fast rule that like once you've had it, you're always going to get it. But it's something that the medical profession generally will keep a closer eye on you. Equally, you might not have it with your first or second, but you might get it with your third. So because there might be different stresses and strains in the relationships and how things come about. So it's not a hard and fast rule. So that's something as well. I mean, I've had friends who have had postnatal depression with their first and then not been affected, and they've had 3 or 4 children after that. Or they've never had it with the first 2, and then they had it with their third, but then they did with the fourth. So
okay, so unpredictable.
Yeah.
And then your experience second time round, then, so kind of more awareness, closer support with the doctors, probably a more openness with your support network from the off.
Yeah.
And then the introduction of medication again. Noticeable difference between second experience to first experience?
100%. So I think because there was just an awareness. And awareness is like just such a key thing, because it even meant for friends and family who didn't have a clue that I was sick, they could see the telltale signs as well. So like, I think there's just, when there's more awareness in your network, people are a lot more kind of like on it to be like, okay, and just checking on you, which can be a little bit like, yeah, I'm fine, but at the same time that was really key as well, that like people kind of were straight off from the off mark, where and I think I was different because I wasn't as scared. Because I think that was the key thing with the first time out. I was just so scared that like my baby was going to be taken away from me, because I knew I wasn't right, but I didn't know to what extent. Like, it's like, is there something really drastically wrong that I'm not going to be able to look after this child, and the government are going to take him away, and all the thoughts that go through your head, and that wasn't there the second time around, because I was like, no, like this is an illness. Like, it's like if someone was diabetic, you wouldn't be like, oh yeah, just don't take your insulin, or you'll just be fine, just like push through. Like you just, there's an issue, and you need to have help to support you in that. So it was definitely, second time around was a lot easier, because I was a lot more open, I feel. It still takes. I'm quite a private person in a lot of ways, and I don't think it's ever easy to admit weakness, like you were saying before, like and be like, because there's pride gets in the way, and so you're like, I'm strong enough, I can deal with this, I don't need help from people, and I struggle asking people for help, but I must have had like 3 or 4 people regularly be like, you just need to ask. You just need to ask. You just need to ask. And so I think that's another thing for kind of people who have maybe got someone that they suspect, who's really close to them, that they suspect there's something not quite right, is just like, it can be annoying and the person might push you away, which I did. I know I did. I'd be like, no, I'm fine. But even that, if someone's saying I'm fine, like Raji, like, maybe they're not.
Yeah.
Maybe just check in a little bit more,
Yeah.
or kind of be like, hey, how can I was going to go to the shops and I was going to get you something today, like what would be really helpful, do you want and even suggesting, like, do you need any milk or bread, do you like, and actually those things can then make people realise there's a safe person. Like having safe people around you is like so key, and I know not everyone has the blessing of that. Like, I am really blessed that I have got like some really like safe family members and friends that I know would check in on me, and I know not everyone has that, but like if you get people who kind of are genuinely wanting to help, like take up those offers, because like no one wants to be sick, like everyone wants to be better.
Yeah. And something in that that I say multiple times when I share my own story, and then as you're sharing your story now, everyone's journey is different, and that's a really helpful thing for people to recognise and get. And even in listening to your story and your experience with postnatal depression, doesn't mean that everyone who's going to have a baby is going to have the same experience as you. Doesn't mean that everyone who develops postnatal depression is going to have the same experience with you. But I always hope in these things, as we share, there's things there that are going to help people. And I'm sure from what you've already shared, there will be. Wondering whether there was any further insights you'd want to give, or any stories you'd want to share, to give people a better picture of what struggling with postnatal depression is like. One that might ring true to someone who's like, oh, that's what I'm experiencing, or for people who know someone who's got postnatal depression and just can't step into their shoes, don't really know what it's like. If you've had anything you felt you could share on that.
Yeah, I think key things were, I just didn't want to exist anymore. That God's the one that ordains life. And I think that was a big part of me that I found difficult, was that I just didn't want to exist anymore. And that's probably the hardest bit, is that you're battling the emotions that aren't right. And obviously, it talks in scripture about the enemy comes to kill, steal and destroy. And so you can almost see that happening. And I was really fortunate that there were two incidences where I was in a really, really, really dark place. And Sam, my husband, just felt, I can't go out tonight. He was due to go out and he was like, I can't go out tonight. And I got really, really cross with him, because I was like, you need to go out. And he said, no, I think I need to stay with you, because you're really tired and I need to help you look after the baby tonight. And I got really cross with him. And then my mum turned up. And I was like, what is this? And that probably was the start. That was before I returned to work. That was a start of kind of a little bit of an inkling of like things aren't right.
But why were you really angry that your husband wanted to stay home and that your mum turned up?
Because I wasn't going to be here anymore. I had it all planned. I'd planned everything. I had everything ready. If they'd gone out, I know I wouldn't have been here anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing with postnatal depression, when it gets to the extent it did with me, was you can't see a way out. You can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. That there's just zero hope. And you know, on the outset, it's like, you know, lovely family, you know, nice house, you know, everything looked lovely, but on the inside it just felt so dark. And yeah, like, you know, by the grace of God, here go I, and I'm still here. And really thankful for just that my mum and my husband on the same night were like, we need to be with Liz tonight.
And many of us are very thankful for that as well. And I think it's a really painful insight. It's a really painful insight to recognise, because you might hear people who aren't kind of in it might hear, oh, someone's got postnatal depression, or they're just kind of having a bit of a difficult time. They're finding it a bit harder than your average person, but it's kind of destructive. Yeah. Really destructive, and a really, what should be a really precious time in life, especially with you being your firstborn child. And hopefully there's people watching it, it can resonate for people not just who perhaps it's postnatal depression, but some other sort of depression. Because again, that terminology of no hope, no light at the end of a tunnel, I think that's where many people sadly get to. Yeah. Thankfully for my own journey, it's as if the tunnel had a corner in it, and I turned that corner and actually the light was just round the corner. Obviously there was light at the end of the tunnel.
I think there was one other thing I did want to mention was, like, as a believer, like, something that really, because I did then start, once I'd been diagnosed and I then started studying, like, what is postnatal depression, what is your amygdala, what's serotonin, what's dopamine, what do all these things do? But something that really fascinated me was, like, in Thessalonians, where it talks about, like, giving thanks, like, in all situations, give thanks. And you know, science is kind of caught up with the Bible. I always think now there's lots of things that science is kind of catching up with, and a real key point of your brain. So the amygdala, it kind of it kind of controls the fear center. So you know, if there's genuine danger, that's what kind of like starts the sweaty palms and the shaky legs if you're up a height and that kind of thing. But that's the bit that kind of goes into overdrive when you get postnatal depression. But a really, another key thing that kind of helped me was, like, when you are thankful, the fear receptor can't work at the same time when you are being thankful. The science has, like, discovered this. And so a key thing that I started doing was, like, I started, like, being like, as soon as there was any, like, little flags going up, I was like, right, what can I be thankful for? And I've got, like, an elderly lady that was in my house group at the time, and she'd be like, you know, we live in the top 5% of, like, the richest people in the world, and she's like, you know, if you've got water coming from your taps, if you've got a roof over your head, if you've got a bed to sleep in, if you've got food on your table, if you've got clothes on your back, like, you are, like, in that top 5%. And so I just started as a practice being like, right, it's starting again. There's, like, these fear factors and these things coming in. Right, what can I be thankful for? Because I want that part to nick off. And so I'd be like, right, thank you, Lord, that I've got water, fresh water that I can drink. I've not had to walk 10 miles to get a dirty puddle of water today. You know, thank you, Lord, that I can go and lie on my bed because I'm feeling knackered, and I can go and cuddle in with my baby and sleep. Thank you, Lord, that I can you know, I can sit in a nice house and I've got a roof over my head and it's raining outside and I'm dry. And you know, and verbalizing those things, and like that was like a key point for me as well, of learning to do that, but like physically having to do that as well.
Really interesting. I think you passed that, you shared that with someone in the church, and they shared that with me, and they said, oh, Liz told me this. And it's something I adopted. And like, oh, okay, just actually being thankful is really helpful. But the other scripture that comes to my mind on that is in Philippians, where it says, be anxious for nothing. And within it then, don't be anxious for anything, but come and pray to God.
Yeah.
But he says in the come and be thankful, like come with thanksgiving,
Mm-hmm.
which doesn't seem to really make much sense. You're anxious, you're in need of help.
Yeah. Why be thankful?
You're anxious, you're in need of help. Why can't we just ask and get help?
Yeah.
And I think there's one, it's good to be grateful.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to be grateful to God.
Yeah.
But like you say, I think the Bible's ahead.
She's ahead of science.
Ahead of everything that's being discovered.
Yeah.
And like, God knew.
Yeah.
God knew that when we're anxious, when we're depressed, when we're like, whatever that those negative emotions are going, to be thankful and grateful
Mm-hmm.
is really good for us.
Yeah.
And I think maybe as we come to an end here, if you want to, you can look at the camera.
Mm-hmm.
Totally sure wasn't allowed to look at the camera because of
So I couldn't.
the zone we're going for. But if you want to just chat to, just what would you want to share with someone who is going through this at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
or even like kind of recovering from that experience?
Yeah. Just to really encourage you that there is light at the end of the tunnel, even in those days when it feels like literally everything is caving in on you, whether that's the place you're in at the minute or you've been in that place and you still feel like you're clawing up a mountain. There is light at the end of a tunnel. Like, I would really encourage you to, like I just said before, be thankful. Like, and that can be really hard and that can sound really trite, but actually verbalise the things that you can be thankful for in a day when everything may have gone wrong, and you may feel like you've not done anything. You know, if you are still here and you're still living and you're still breathing, there's still hope, and there is a beautiful place for you to find yourself. I think for someone, also if you're trying to support someone who's going through that at the minute, just being there for them, being there, giving them hugs, that releases oxytocin, which has a massive impact, and just telling someone that you're there and being around them is just so key, to let them know they're not alone and that they have got people around them who love them and care for them. And just keep going. Take one step at a time, take one literal, sometimes minute at a time. Rest when you need to rest, and try and get the sleep if you can, and get support if you can as well. Yeah.
And I think I'd just add in, I'm obviously not on the woman's side of the birth and family life, but as a guy who's had kids, just be kind to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Just be kind to yourself, because having kids is hard work, and so maybe sometimes we're too hard on ourselves, and can be kind to ourselves. And so Liz, I also want to just say, like, thank you very much for your willingness to share.
Pleasure.
It's wonderful that there are experts out there who know the science and the studies and things behind these kind of things, but real life examples and stories is what really helps, at least I find, joining in with other people's journey. So thank you very much for that. I hope it's been a real blessing to any one of you who's watching, and I'm sure you'll see me at the very least again at some point.